I was among the first cops to be at the crime scene, and I arrested the gang, and I was the head detective in the case.
Please, help us. We heard you were at the robbery scene. Tell them he was forced, please. Think of something. Cops are liars. Help us, Vanessa, please.
The memories of all the sufferings I endured, his betrayal to my mom, and how he hurt us both, flowed in. I held back tears and promised to help them. They left happily after thanking me. However, I had no plans to. I only raised their hopes to make them feel as hurt as my mom and I felt. On the day of the trial, I saw their hopeful gaze when I walked to the judge. Here are the evidence for the culprit. We also discovered him to be the ringleader in the robbery. There's also evidence and witnesses to confirm that he's committed other crimes, which includes kidnapping, sexual assault, physical abuse, and murder. Hi there. My name's Vanessa Hugh, and I'm currently 26 years old. I serve in the police as a detective. About 6 years ago, I was kicked out of my father's house by him and his new family. My parents were my idols. They both attended the same high school but were enemies then. My mom was the prettiest girl in the class and my dad was the most handsome. Now, you must be wondering why they weren't close. I did too. Well, they were also the most intelligent and obsessed with topping the class. They hated each other because they were both making it hard for themselves. They didn't have a proper conversation even after graduation. However, as fate would have it, they met again after college. Then, my dad had just started his company, and my mom was a marketer. She was in search of a job and happened to hear about my dad's company. According to them, they were both embarrassed when they met each other and burst into laughter. Knowing how intelligent my mom was, my dad employed her. They both slowly became closer until they finally caught feelings for each other, and their life story began from there. They were quite intentional, honestly. Once my dad's company began flourishing properly, he proposed to her. They got married 3 months later. I was told that it took them quite a long time before they had me. My mom had countless miscarriages before I finally came, and that was 5 years after their wedding. One day, when I was 13, my dad asked to take me with him on a business trip. My mom happily agreed. To her, he was going to start putting me through the family business. But the reverse was the case. I was taken to a beautiful mansion in a different country, and was met by a strange woman and a young boy. I asked my father who the strangers were. I'd expected to see men in suits discussing business, not a woman who hugged my dad the same way my mom did.
This is Veronica. I want you to see her like a second mother. And this is her son, Vincent. See him like your elder brother.
I'd have thought the woman was his sister and the boy her son, but he added that I should never mention it to my mom. Throughout the 3 days I was there, the woman was all over my dad like he's her husband. I was confused. Even her son called him dad. At the time, I could tell he was 18 or more than. When the third day finally came, I was so relieved that I'll be going back home. I had gone into my room to take a novel I forgot. When I walked back to the living room, I saw my dad kissing the woman. Before they could notice me, I went back into the room and only left much later. I was heartbroken and confused. When we returned home, my mom happily hugged him and kissed him on the same lips he kissed the other woman with. I was so angry that I left for my room and asked no one to disturb me, using a headache as cover-up. Later that day, my mom came in. I hugged her and burst into tears. She was worried, but she didn't say a word until I stopped crying. Dad's cheating on you, Mom. He didn't take me on a business trip. We went to a woman's house and she has a son. He kissed her on the lips before we left, Mom. My mom smiled, but I could see the sadness in her eyes.
I'm aware, baby. I don't want you to hate him, okay? He loves you. And us. Having a second woman and son doesn't mean he loves us any less.
I couldn't believe her. She sounded like she knew about it a long time ago. I tried to talk to her, but she hushed me and gently warned me against discussing it any further. I accepted, but my dislike for my father began growing from then. Life continued like nothing happened, but I never forgot about it. Years later, when I was 18, my mom suddenly collapsed while we were having breakfast. She was quickly rushed to the hospital, where she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. We were devastated, mostly me. However, my mom managed to keep a smile on.
I won't die, sweetie. I'm gonna fight it, okay? Stop crying now, baby.
How can you fight terminal cancer, honey? You're going to die. Don't lie to the girl.
I was horrified. How could he say that? Was he so stupid? It seemed as though my mom knew I was close to exploding, so she gave my hand a gentle squeeze before facing my dad.
You shouldn't be so negative, darling. Nessa's here. We should comfort her and not say things that would scare her.
Her voice sounded so weak. I felt pity for my mom, seeing her in such a poor condition. She stayed in the hospital longer than I thought, and I was filled with worry each day. I couldn't go home daily, and I only managed to attend classes regularly. One day, I returned home to meet the woman and her son from years ago, sitting in the living room. I was filled with rage. "What are you both doing here?" The woman eyed me without responding. Her son, who'd already become a grown man, responded instead.
We have come to take over what rightfully belonged to us.
It was then that it was confirmed that he's my stepbrother, born by the woman who my dad had an affair with before my mom gave birth to me. Tears filled my eyes. Before I could respond, my dad walked in with a smirk that showed he's been listening to us.
You heard them. They're my first family, and as you might have known already, I value them more than you and your sick mother. I have always wanted just a boy. I'm getting a divorce from her, as I'd like to focus on only my real family. I'll be requesting a DNA test. Hopefully you're not my child. I'll need to have both of you get rid of.
I couldn't believe my ears. It felt like I'd die that moment. The betrayal, the hurt, all mixed together. I wondered how my mom would feel if she heard about his plan to divorce her for his mistress and son. It was so overwhelming. I nearly fainted. I grabbed my bag and hurried to the hospital. I wanted to tell my mom and prepare her, but she was asleep, and I couldn't wake her up. I sat by her bedside, determined to wait until she woke up. While waiting, I slept off. It was about an hour later before I finally woke up to the sound of people coming in. My heart missed a beat as my dad and his new family walked in. My mom's smile never left her face. He flung the document to her and ordered her to sign it. Tears rolled down my eyes as she did, with her smile still on. She passed it to him afterward. Then, he told her about the DNA test. Only then did she speak.
Nessa is your child, and you know that. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sure you'll be disappointed.
Her smile never left her face. She turned to me, and I saw the tears in her eyes. I quickly held her hands, crying too.
I love you, honey. I want you to grow up and make me proud, whether I'm alive or not. I want you to have a good life, okay?
I nodded, sobbing loudly. I was scared. Her words were making me scared. She faced my dad and his new family next.
You should have cheated with someone else. She was the same person who nearly poisoned me at prom and who sent assassins to me after our wedding. It shouldn't have been her, but I forgive you. I love you. I always have and always will.
As her tears dropped, she gave up the ghost. I screamed in terror. My dad and the others left me alone with her. I was crying so loudly, begging her to come back, but she never did.
She is dead. We can now go.
I was shocked by what my stepbrother said after that. My dad managed to give her a shitty funeral, which made me hate him even more. He also had the DNA test done, and it came out positive. Life began with me living with them. I was severely maltreated. For 3 years, I lived like a slave. I was made to cook, clean, and even mow the lawn always. One morning, my dad walked into my room.
Pack your things and leave my house. My wife told me you started stealing, and you stole her necklace. I didn't raise a thief. Just pack your things and disappear before I return this evening. I don't want to see you when I get back.
Eventually, after getting satisfied with seeing me suffer, I was thrown out of the house and disowned by my father, simply because my stepmom claimed I stole her necklace and my father believed her. I didn't let that bring me down. I slept in the streets without shame, searching for jobs anywhere. I worked 3 part-time jobs and managed to save to get a house. I changed my name and started my life at Fresh. I went to a police academy after college, and last year, I started working as a cop. Due to my smartness and diligence, I quickly got promoted to the post of a detective. A few months later, my dad and his mistress were in front of me, her on her knees and my dad in heavy tears begging for my help. Apparently, their son had been so spoiled that he turned to crime. He had put them in so much trouble. Not only did he gamble with his parents' home, rendering them homeless, he also stole the company's money and also got involved in a serious robbery case that landed him in the station where I work. The investors at my dad's company are on his neck, as well as his workers. 60% already quit, and the rest were threatening to sue him if he didn't pay up. Their main problem, however, was to ensure their son didn't go to jail. I was among the first cops to be at the crime scene, and I arrested the gang, and I was the head detective in the case.
Please, help us. We heard you were at the robbery scene. Tell them he was forced, please. Think of something. Cops are liars. Help us, Vanessa, please.
The memories of all the sufferings I endured, his betrayal to my mom, and how he hurt us both, flowed in. I held back tears and promised to help them. They left happily after thanking me. However, I had no plans to. I only raised their hopes to make them feel as hurt as my mom and I felt. On the day of the trial, I saw their hopeful gaze when I walked to the judge. Here are the evidence for the culprit. We also discovered him to be the ringleader in the robbery. There's also evidence and witnesses to confirm that he's committed other crimes, which includes kidnapping, sexual assault, physical abuse, and murder. I saw their shocked faces when I said that. I presented the video I'd recorded when I caught him among the robbers. I also presented document of his other crimes. The judge allowed the witnesses to come in, and they testified to his crimes. I'd done so much investigation with the help of my colleagues, and I couldn't be more grateful to them. My stepbrother had hurt and killed a lot of people and committed so many other crimes. Because of that, the judge sentenced him to death by hanging, while the other members were sent to serve 20 years each. My stepmother immediately collapsed after the verdict. My dad stared at me, and I could see the pure pain in his eyes. His tears made me even happier. While their son got taken away, my dad's mistress was taken to the hospital where they discovered she'd gotten a full-body paralysis. On the day their son was to be hanged, I was allowed to follow. I took a video of the whole process and sent it to my dad afterward. The next day, I heard he'd a painful seizure. I felt relieved afterward. I'd taken my revenge on them all, and I was sure my mom would be happy too. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.
I always knew you wouldn't get anywhere, Arthur, with that arrogant attitude. You think you can do anything without consequences. Excuse me, but we're in the middle of a funeral. Could you please leave so we can continue? Actually, yes, it does matter. I came to get my employee, and I'm not leaving without him. That's when things got out of control. My boss grabbed my arm and tried to drag me towards the exit. Of course, I tried to free myself from his grip, which made him even angrier. And he started shouting, insulting me, and telling everyone how terrible an employee I was, stopping even to criticize the smallest mistake I had made in the office to make me look like the bad guy. He was out of his mind, not seeming to realize where we were, and that there were at least 100 people in the room who needed silence to continue the ceremony. When he saw his verbal tantrum was going nowhere, he tried to use force again. He couldn't grab me again, but he started throwing punches and kicks at anyone who tried to stop him. You need to stop this madness. This is a funeral. Just shut up. Then my boss punched the priest. The security had to be called to remove my boss from the premises. Hi, my name is Arthur, and I have been working at an insurance company for more than 6 years. Although I do my job decently, always arriving punctually and ensuring a minimum number of sales per month, I don't think I could consider myself the company's #1 employee. Rather, given my shy nature and day-to-day performance, I could be considered just another worker. I didn't have any special talent for my duties, but I was not lacking in enthusiasm and willingness to learn. Maybe that's why, despite not advancing in my position, I became the veteran whom my colleagues admired and got along with well enough to form friendships that extended beyond work hours. And yes, I loved working there. The feeling with those people was mutual. The only problem, or inconvenience, was my boss. A despot who had been in his position long enough to believe he had the right to treat others like mere insects he could step on. Arthur, the marketing plan you made for the new alarms is absolute garbage. You need to redo it by the end of the day. But I've already redone it twice before. What do you expect if you don't put any effort into it? Do you think I'll just accept it as it is? The target audience is wrong, and I also don't like how you outlined the promotion strategy. Why didn't you tell me that before when I submitted the plan last time? Don't talk back to me. That's all I needed. You'll be staying late until you finish it properly, even if it's 2 in the morning. The client wants this ready for tomorrow, and so it shall be. My boss often made me redo entire plans, making me stay at the company for countless extra hours without any additional pay. He would also insult me frequently, saying my work was worthless, and that even the guy hired just to run errands and serve him coffee was more capable than I was at producing the necessary reports. But despite all these insults and threats, my boss never fired me. On the contrary, he made sure to squeeze my time to the maximum, giving me as many tasks as possible. It almost seemed like he wanted to enslave me to the company, regardless of what I might think. Initially, I thought it was just my imagination, that any day now, my boss would get tired and hire someone more capable than me, someone who wouldn't talk back when he crossed the line with his orders. However, I realized that would never happen when my partner fell ill. I need to take a few days off to take care of her. Oh no, absolutely not. Do you think I'm going to pay you to go off on vacation with your girl whenever you feel like it? I already gave you a month a year. You should be grateful and stop being greedy by asking for more. It's not for a vacation, it's to accompany her to the hospital. She's undergoing major surgery. And those weeks of vacation you give me annually are what I'm legally entitled to. I don't need to be grateful for them. How dare you? Of course, I'm not going to let you go just like that. You say you're going to the hospital, but who knows if that's true? No, you'll stay, or I'll deduct it from your pay. In the end, I was able to accompany my partner, but at the cost of losing a small part of my salary and having to work twice, or even 3 times as much when I returned to the office. I knew it wasn't fair, and that if I reported it, the authorities would be on my side, and I would get justice. But at that time, my partner was already in such poor health that her well-being became my complete priority. I didn't want to get into disputes with my boss. I didn't have the time or energy for it, since I just wanted to focus on helping my partner recover from that damned illness. Unfortunately, even with my help and the doctor's efforts, she didn't survive. The funeral will be on Thursday, so I'll need to be absent to attend. What are you saying? We have a vital presentation with one of our main clients the next day, and we need to use the time to prepare. Denied. It's not a question of whether I can go or not. It's something I must do. As your boss, I must warn you that this cannot happen. Otherwise, I'll fire you. Then fire me. I was going to take leave after the funeral, but if this way I can get some rest, it'll serve me just as well. That enraged my boss so much that he started shouting at me and throwing things off his desk, loudly claiming I had no right to speak to him like that, and much less to leave him hanging in an important meeting on such short notice. I didn't care. I knew I wasn't essential at work because my boss had made it clear in the past. So, no matter what, I was going to that funeral, then take a break, and afterward, I would probably report my boss for unfair dismissal or whatever was appropriate. What I knew for sure was that I wasn't going back to that toxic work environment. My plan was to postpone the complaint until after the funeral, until I felt better emotionally. However, nothing prepared me for the next day when, right in the middle of the ceremony, my boss showed up at the church, interrupting the service just as it was beginning. Arthur, I finally found you. It's unbelievable that you decided to come here, to an ugly church in the middle of nowhere instead of fulfilling your work schedule. You should be ashamed. What? I already told you I wasn't coming back to work. I even left a resignation letter in the HR department, clarifying that I would come next week to finalize the exit procedures. Exactly, so you're still not gone, and you owe me work these days at least. Otherwise, I'll have to report you for breach of contract. Breach of contract? Me? I always knew you wouldn't get anywhere, Arthur, with that arrogant attitude. You think you can do anything without consequences. Excuse me, but we're in the middle of a funeral. Could you please leave so we can continue? Actually, yes, it does matter. I came to get my employee, and I'm not leaving without him. That's when things got out of control. My boss grabbed my arm and tried to drag me towards the exit. Of course, I tried to free myself from his grip, which made him even angrier. And he started shouting, insulting me, and telling everyone how terrible an employee I was, stopping even to criticize the smallest mistake I had made in the office to make me look like the bad guy. He was out of his mind, not seeming to realize where we were, and that there were at least 100 people in the room who needed silence to continue the ceremony. When he saw his verbal tantrum was going nowhere, he tried to use force again. He couldn't grab me again, but he started throwing punches and kicks at anyone who tried to stop him. You need to stop this madness. This is a funeral. Just shut up. Then my boss punched the priest. The security had to be called to remove my boss from the premises. What no one expected was that suddenly the CEO of our company appeared, who apparently had been sitting in one of the back pews of the church, watching everything unfold. And as if by magic, my boss stopped the violence before they could throw him out. "What are you doing here?" "Indeed, you don't know. The deceased was a good friend of my daughter." Yes, well, I'm very sorry for the spectacle, but I had no other choice. My employee left work without proper notice." "That's not true. I did give notice. He just ignored it." "Don't worry, Arthur. I think we'll find a fair solution to this inconvenience." With that said, the CEO apologized to me and my family for the trouble before ordering my boss to follow him out of the church. And my boss, seeing the imminent disaster, let himself be led without resistance. A few days later, when I returned to the office to collect my things and finalize the procedures to leave the company, I found out what had happened. Apparently, the CEO was so disgusted with my boss's behavior that he fired him. That surprised me because I always thought those two were friends, and that no matter what my boss did, the CEO would end up forgiving him. Well, in work matters, that wasn't the case. The CEO did speak with the funeral staff and my family to prevent them from filing a complaint against my boss, even giving us a generous sum of money for the inconvenience. But that little generosity for his friend, so he wouldn't end up in jail, was all he did for him. And once they were alone, he had no qualms about firing him and warning him that he would never work in any known company in the city if he could help it. My boss spent a few more days behind bars, mainly for the assault on the priest and several funeral guests, but finally got out of there, without a job, and with no one to sympathize with his actions.
Arthur, the CEO wants to see you.
Me? I thought we agreed I was leaving today. If it's about the complaint.
No, it's about work. You'd better see him before resigning.
The CEO never mentioned my ex-boss again. On the contrary, he told me he had been reviewing my work performance over the past few years and realized I was doing twice or 3 times as much as my ex-boss, and that the reports I submitted were considerably better. Hence, he not only wanted to offer me to stay with the company, but he also wanted to promote me, either taking the vacant position or even choosing another that I liked more. He didn't pressure me to return, instead giving me time to think it over. But in the end, I decided on a yes. The work would keep me occupied after the loss, and it was always nice to know that I could earn more and gain more prestige for doing the job I enjoyed. As for my ex-boss, he had no possibility of working in the same sector again, after having gone through the public humiliation of almost ending up in jail. People from the funeral had made videos of my boss and posted on TikTok. When my ex-boss was released from jail, someone set fire to his house the same day, causing significant damage, and he had to do repairs. Due to all the doxing, his wife became scared for her life as people began attacking them. She filed for divorce and left my ex-boss. They never had any children. My boss then got a new girlfriend, but someone tipped her off about his past, and she dumped him. My ex-boss became so depressed that he started talking to himself. The last I heard about him, he had gotten a job as a janitor to survive, since no company wanted to hire a crazy and violent man. People constantly made fun of him in his current job. They would often send photos of him from the funeral to his house. He had no choice but to run away from Texas. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.